Welcome back, pro wrestling fans. Welcome back, IWC. It's me. It's me. It's the GOC. Coming to you from Guardian of Chaos, the YouTube channel, here at Chaos Corner. I'll say that to say this, because I tell it like it is. No, it's not today, this date in pro wrestling history. No, it's not the episodic YouTube series Flashback. It's not story time with the GOC. It's just Chaos Corner, the show. I can't thank you guys enough for being here. Another impromptu show here from Chaos Corner, 25 feet below the surface of the earth. I am live to tape. It's crazy, insane weather outside with thunderstorms, tornadoes, floods, pending hurricanes, a heat wave. Wait a minute. Let me rewind. I'm live. I'm definitely live. It's Sunday night. But I am taping this at the same time. Fuck it. You guys get the idea, right? So I'm just here to pump out some content to entertain you on a Sunday night, which I know there used to be a lot of content creators and podcasters, because this isn't a podcast. This is a show. So I wanted to come back on, take advantage of the airtime, and provide some entertainment, not only for you, but for me as well. So a little toned down version of the GOC. Big shout out to my moderators, Austin Nance and the OTS Tribal Queen, and everyone else that's going to be tuning in here tonight. Much love. I certainly greatly appreciate it. Shout out to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, because without him, none of this is possible. And if he's for us, no one else can be against us. So I'm just going to give you some tidbits of information. We're going to have some fun. Kick back and relax. Grab your dinner, your supper, a snack, a beverage. Tell your neighbors, tell your friends. Irate or drop an elbow on that like button. Leave a comment, email me, inbox me, say something. Again, over 3,000 videos on this channel. Go to the playlist. You'll see everything that I put up here. Go to when I report live here on the community page. And no, I won't be covering AEW tonight or the WWE, which you know I report live for SmackDown and for Dynamite and occasionally Raw, and of course all the PLEs and pay-per-views. Follow me on all social media platforms, not just here on Guardian of Chaos, the YouTube channel. As I said, go to the community page. Follow me on Instagram, The Guardian of Chaos. Follow me on Twitter, aka X, at Big Daddy GOC. And the GOC stands for the Guardian of Chaos. I have 2 accounts on Facebook. That's right, I have 2. Some for personal reasons, some for promotional reasons. The first account is J-Brony, just like it sounds. Jabroni. J-Brony, for all you pencil necks and people out there with the brain of a dehydrated baby. I mean, no offense, man. Kayfabe is alive. And then, of course, my second account on Facebook in honor of my heritage, Prodigio Fidelis El Guardian. Let me say it again, Prodigio Fidelis El Guardian. And then, of course, at Guardian of Chaos, on Gitter, Gab, Truth Social, Rumble, I cover it all in the IWC. Well, actually, I got rid of my Parler account. I got rid of my Gab account. I got rid of my Gitter account. I'm not on Twitch. So mainly it's here on YouTube, the mothership, if you will. Of course, over on Twitter, as I said, aka X, Instagram, Facebook. I post on all those accounts almost daily or every other day. I am a presence on Rumble. I haven't started the live show over there yet. So those are the main accounts that you can follow me. You can always get in touch with me. You can inbox me on Twitter. I've put out my email address, my 2 email address, because we have a fan mail show coming back, and the 2 emails are, write it down, Chaos Big Daddy, the number 2, on yahoo.com. That's right, Chaos Big Daddy, all one word, all one sentence, the number 2 at yahoo.com. And then, of course, there's Chaos Big Daddy, the number 11. That's right, Chaos Big Daddy, the number 11 at gmail.com. So get in touch with me. Send me your letters, your fan mail. You're not going to want to miss it. So let's get into it right here. Again, to entertain you on a Sunday night. Why aren't you content creators out here on Sunday nights when there's nobody around? So I'm going to bring you some of my form of entertainment. Remember this, there's 3 types of people in this world. Those who don't know what happened, those who wonder what happened, and people like the GOC that make things happen. And in order to get respect, you have to start with respecting yourself. Once you do that, you open other people's minds to respecting you. Now, I don't know how long we're going to be here. Again, this was impromptu. The wife and I do the series Dinner for Two. You know that. Here on the channel, Dinner for Two. You won't want to miss it. In our natural atmosphere, I open up and you can see more about what my personal life is like and with the wife. And we talk about everything from court trials and the law and investigative reports, Real Housewives, Below Deck, everything that you could think of, covering real life women issues as well, and couples and relationship issues. That's why my female demographic here is well over 20%. I believe it's up to 27%. What show content creator has almost 30% of a female audience? Well, I do, and I owe it to the wifey. Dinner for Two, check it out. You guys aren't going to want to miss that. I have chaos clips, again, over 3,000 videos. I'm repeating myself here. I just am. And follow the guys that I follow. The best podcast in the entire community is Jim Cornette. The Jim Cornette Experience, the drive-through with Cornette, his omnibus. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. His political views are his own. He's got his head up his ass. We know the country isn't any better. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not here for that. But if you're not listening to Cornette, which we're along the same lines, I agree with 95% what he says about the current day business, then you're missing the boat. According to my analytics here on the channel, my fans also listen to the Jim Cornette Experience. Also, more laid back, and he's very vague, like the OTS Tribal Queen had stated in the last show here on Chaos Corner, and I agree with her. He's a little vague. He always leads on that he knows more than what he says, but he's an unbelievable storyteller. So Dutch Mantel, Jim Cornette, and then of course you know who I moderate for in this community. The best podcasters out there in the pro wrestling community. The internet wrestling community, if you want to say, for all you dweebs and geeks and neckbeards and mouth breathers and virgins. No offense, man. Lighten up, snowflakes, goons, geeks, and kayfabe is alive and real here at Chaos Corner. There's the #1 fucking podcast on YouTube, and that's JD from New York. That's right, JD from New York and Off the Script. It doesn't get much better than that. His co-host on Tuesday nights, Jason Solomon, the Solomonster. You also can follow him on YouTube. And then, of course, on a Wednesday night, JD's co-host is the Chi-Town Smart Heel Jesse. Go over to his channel. He's got an excellent channel on YouTube covering everything that you can think of in the wrestling community. So don't miss out on JD, the Solomonster, and, of course, the Chi-Town Smart. And then there's the originals, the OGs on YouTube, that have been around since the 90s, and that would be Don Tony, the OG of the podcast world. Let's face it, the Don Tony and his partner, Kevin Castle, the DT and KC show, whether it's on Discord, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on audio, whether it's on video, it doesn't get more informative and honest and real than Don Tony and Kevin Castle. Those are my go-tos. I have to say that. I also listen to my boys, a more laid-back scenario, people like you and I and everybody from pillar to post and coast to coast and border to border, and that would be my buddies over at the Wrestling Council. That's right, the Wrestling Council with a 3-host panel, Comic Book Bob, who knows everything about the world of pro wrestling, his partner, Hollywood, a very entertaining guy and one hell of a person. Their sidekick, here's Johnny, who's one heck of a graphic artist, one heck of an illustrator. So the Wrestling Council is a worthy listen. There's also, from my home company at Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling, two guys that worked under the guidance of Vince McMahon, Ted Turner, WCW, the WWF, during the golden era, owners and co-trainers at Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling, and that would be Hey Roma, Hey Roma, Hey Roma, the podcast, with Pretty Paul Roma and his co-host, Mario Mancini. They're on Thursday nights, I believe, at 6 or 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Go over and subscribe to the Hey Roma podcast. Now, you know Pretty Paul Roma, Four Horsemen, Power and Glory, Young Stallions. Does it get any better than that? Pretty wonderful. Tag team champ with Arn Anderson. Been in WrestleMania, multiple appearances around the globe, Madison Square Garden, and then, of course, his co-host, as I said, Mario Mancini, who has his own show over on Cheap Heat Productions with Morris and Jack Kilby. That's right, Jack Kilby and Morris over at Cheap Heat Productions for the Mario Mancini show. Now, Mancini was in the WWF from 84 to 92. He debuted The Undertaker, Demolition, Ted Arcidi. The list goes on and on of the Hall of Famers, considered one of the top 10 jobbers of all time. He's on the list. He made the list. He's in 3 fucking dictionaries for the WWE. Oh, wait. Encyclopedias. So if you're not following this group of guys, I don't know what to tell you. And then there's the young upstarts in the podcast community that I moderate for, some of them, and other ones I just hang out as a casual fan, because you do know that we're all fans. My over 50 years of being a historian, a researcher, a scout, an agent, a producer, a smark, a mark, that's right, I said it, a mark. And of course, my over 3 decades in this fucking industry as a pro wrestling manager that took the fucking bumps. You guys know it. I said it. You get an insider's view here. No one else in this community is doing what I do from my perspective of what I've done in this business. So I hang out as a casual and as a fan as well. And that's what all my brothers, and I'm going to name them off, Otis, over at Big O Gaming on YouTube. My brother from another mother, Otis, at Big O Gaming. He does one heck of a show. And then there's Funny Rob Bebe, Hoodie Bebe, a Hat Bebe, over at the Bebe Resort. He's got an excellent show, a startup show on YouTube. So follow Funny Rob or Hoodie Rob Bebe. And then, of course, there's Jeremy, a.k.o. the Mid-Mo Smark, over at Decoding Kayfabe. Now, he might be on a little hiatus right now, but I know he's coming back. A well-spoken guy, Decoding Kayfabe, the Mid-Mo Smark. And then there's their co-hosts, their cohorts. There's the big man, Future. There's my brother and also a moderator for JD, and that would be the one and only Hooligrim. I hope you're doing good, Hoolie. So you're going to want to check those guys out. And also their co-hosts with Kratos, one heck of a smart guy. Lil Montana, Scripps Wrestling Federation. I don't think I'm missing anybody. Those are all the guys over at the so-called Bebe Resort. So all these people that I give a shout out to and love to and I respect, whether you're the top of the food chain, the middle, or at single A, it doesn't matter because we're all in the same fucking boat. So remember that, who are lurking in the back and you watch these shows but you don't say anything in the premiere or the live chat. It's okay, because just know that I know, and you know that I know, that you're watching. So before we get started, once again, shout out to Austin Nance, and the OTS Tribal Queen. Can't thank you guys enough. Sign up and be a member. I think it's $2 or $3 a fucking month. I mean, I get it. Some of you's got to jerk off the dog to feed the cat. I understand that. But if you can't afford $2 or $3 a month, I don't know what you're doing. There's no paywalls here. There's no Patreons. There's no super chats. It is what it is, man. I'm doing this regardless. Motivation, passion, desire. That's why I'm here. So now that I'm on my 15-minute monologue, impromptu, the GOC Big Daddy. All the better to see you with fans and arenas. I want you to listen up to this. Live matches versus pay-per-view. What's the difference? A list of the top wrestling arenas. How to prepare for a trip to the arena. What to expect when you get there. So we're going to go through tidbits and notes and news and notes and useless facts of information here today on Chaos Corner. And again, I want you to remember the time frame of this. We're going back 25 years ago with this information because you know history is my specialty and it applies today in this pro wrestling industry, this pro wrestling business. Always remember this, and I say it all the time. The rearview mirror is smaller for a reason, but it's still there so you could look back and remember it and honor it and remember those that paved the way. Because if you don't give back and look back, you ain't shit in this business or in life. I'm just telling it like it is. I give you the good, the bad, and the ugly on this channel. Reality. Okay, this may be a persona, but it's also a part of who I am as a real person in real life. The rear view mirror is there for a reason. It's not to stay stuck back there, but it's to remember it. It's to honor it. And to still keep looking back because it's important. Without it, you can't see to where you're going. You can't get to where you are or where you want to go. And the windshield's much larger for a reason because that's the future. That's where you want to see is where you're going to go. But without that, you can't get to here or there, and then it's step on that gas pedal, full speed ahead. So remember that on the things that I talk about. Professional wrestling works on many different levels. As an athletic exhibition, as a multimedia event, as a soap opera. And fans have always been a major part of that equation. Wrestling as an audience participation event is very important to the aspect of the whole experience. So the fans at a wrestling show are as important as the event itself. Hello? McFly? Is anybody home? It's always been this way since time immemorial. Or as I like to say, as time immortal. But as times have changed, so too have the audiences compared to today, as you see in AEW, the WWE, or even the overseas crowds, and the huge difference in whatever town or city or country that you go to. In this, you're going to learn about the role played by wrestling's fans and how the role has changed over the years. You'll learn about the rituals of arena attendance, about fan-wrestler interaction, and never to put your fucking hands on the talent. Remember that. All the elements that come together to make a live show an event to remember. Back in the old days, sports were called leisure activities, and the fans took them in leisurely. Content just to be passive attendance at an event. Let me say that again. And the fans took them in leisurely. Content just to be passive attendees at an event. Look back at the 70s and the 80s and how the fans used to go insane. They were in a frenzy. All natural. No piped in noises. Compared to today's events. Especially here in North America. And then look at the overseas crowds and how they appreciate it much more because they get a show once every 5 or 10 years. And they are literally in a frenzy. Do your due diligence and your research, as I always say. All the elements that come together to make a live show, as I said, an event to remember. Those were the days when boxing bouts lasted the better part of 20 rounds. When baseball was dominated by pitchers and single-run games were the rule. When action on a football field meant 3-yard gains. With no such thing as forward passing. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. And when wrestling matches went on forever, which people today who have the brain of a turnbuckle have the attention span of a gnat, and you don't like that, well, chaos, who wants to be in a hold for 3 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes? You guys don't get it. It's emotional investment. It's ring psychology. It's storytelling. It's pacing. It's generalship. Showmanship. Do you understand yet the difference? With little or no movement, as the combatants strained and pushed against each other in the ring. Today they want you to jump off the top of a building, go through barbed wire and ladders and tables and fire and everything else, match after match, and nobody sells and nobody gets hurt. CM Punk gets taken out on a stretcher in an ambulance the other night, and then fans have videos of him driving in his SUV out of the arena. Where the fuck is kayfabe? Where is selling? Where is keeping it real? Where is telling the story? I just don't get it in this day and age. And I'm not just the old man brand, the over 50 demo god. I'm telling it like it is. I'm giving it to you raw dog. One man, unique, unedited, unscripted. Those days changed radically sometime in the 1920s to the 1950s, when both society and sports speeded up. Baseball introduced the livelier ball. Boxing began the shortened bout. Football brought in the forward pass, and wrestling set time limits. And with these livelier sports came livelier crowds, no longer sitting passively in the stands, but leaping up to exhort their heroes onto victory in rah-rah college fashion. Now remember, we're going back to when this was produced and written and thrown out in 1999. A match made in heaven, Captain Lou Albano and Burt Randolph Sugar. A complete idiot's guide to the world of pro wrestling. No offense, man. And with the end of World War II, the wheel of change turned once more. Sports became a national obsession. And spectators at sporting events became the nationally obsessed. Hence, fandom, or is what you geeks today call tribalism, with your own dumb phrases and dumb words. Oh, he be cooking. Oh, he's cooking tonight. It's a banger. Really? What is this, fucking Ebonics? Wrestling was no exception to all this change, but its fans were the most obsessed of all. Much of that fan involvement had to do with the fact that those in attendance believed wholeheartedly in what was taking place in front of them. The harsh violence of a wrestling match was viewed with complete credulity. Did I say that right? And the audience quickly became part of the show. In arena after arena, places too big for an insane asylum and too weird for anything else, wrestling's true believers became caught up in the spirit of the moment. At the Montreal Forum, when the loser of the main event refused to unmask as he was supposed to, the fans rioted. They tore up the seats, broke the windows, and stormed the box office. At the Olympic Auditorium in Los Angeles, the crowd exploded when Gorgeous George threw Jim the Black Panther Mitchell out of the ring and kept him out by kicking him in the face every time he tried to crawl back in. At Madison Square Garden, fans intent on seeing justice done erupted in rage after a defeated Dr. Jerry Graham slugged his opponent, Antonino Rocca, as Rocca was acknowledging the cheers of his loyal following. The wildness of wrestling's early fans has toned down some today, but precautions still need to be taken to protect the stars. Entrance aisles for most big shows are purposely made wide enough so that wrestlers can't be touched or hassled by overzealous fans. Wrestlers have had to fight their way back through phalanxes of angry fans intent on righting the wrongs they thought they just viewed in the ring. Red Russell remembers one night in Bluefield, West Virginia, of all places, after he defeated a local in what he himself called a very unsportsmanlike manner. The crowd came at him like a wall of human flesh, and he had to fight like a man possessed just to reach the safety of the dressing room. Now listen to Jim Cornette's podcast, as I've said before, and he'll tell you about the territory days, especially in the UWF, especially in the Mid-South, especially in the Deep South, and places like Arkansas, Oklahoma, especially Louisiana and Texas. I mean, it's just the facts. Or the Ox Baker Ernie Ladd riot in Cleveland, Ohio. It's on videotape. It's on YouTube. Go check it out. Every wrestler worth his trunks learned the art of survival back in those days, having had to learn it under fire in a riot or two. Speaking of riots, I was in a handful myself behind the walls. Read the description of the YouTube channel here and you'll understand what the fuck I'm talking about. As one said, if you don't have the experience, you can get killed. The mob scene and what one wrestler called the silent heat, that devastating quiet before the storm that presages an eruption from a vicious crowd, were only one threat to the safety of a post-war wrestler. Ask classy Freddie Blassie when he was Japan, or anyone that's traveled to Puerto Rico to the WWC. No me jodas, maricón, muévete, culo, pendejo. What I say, man, no offense, de nada. Of equal concern with the self-appointed vigilantes acting alone, the obsessed who took it upon themselves to right some perceived wrong out of misguided notions of vengeance. I was there the night in Boston when a crazed fan jumped into the ring and assaulted Blackjack Mulligan with a carpet knife, opening up his leg. It took 187 stitches to put Jack back together again. And I was in the ring with Bruno Sammartino in Washington, doing my usual feet don't fail me now trick by fleeing up the aisle, when some nitwit reached out with a knife and caught me across the arm. I ran back to the locker room, bleeding like a stuck pig, where my friend Pedro Morales put a tourniquet on to stop the bleeding. With my luck, it's any surprise that the towel he used for the tourniquet was filthy, infecting my wound and nearly killed me. To quote Captain Louis Albano, one of my mentors and one of the people that I molded this character after. Well, that's right. These are just a few examples of fanatic fans taking justice into their own hands. Freddie Blassie looked down mid-boot to find a knife stuck in his calf, as I previously mentioned. He handled that just fine. He went back to the dressing room and poured iodine on the wound. Art Nelson wasn't so lucky. Stabbed in the side at a Chattanooga arena, he ended up undergoing 2 hours of surgery. Stabbed in the side at a Chattanooga arena, as I said. Billy Edwards in Waco, Texas. George Lenahan in New Haven, Connecticut. And Pedro Zapata in Florence, Alabama, all found themselves at the pointy end of a knife. And let's not forget Danny Hodge. He was stabbed in the back and arm while wrestling in Oklahoma City's Municipal Auditorium. His assailant was his own father. Watching wrestling on TV has its advantages and conveniences. But to me, it's like eating a ham sandwich with the waxed paper still on it. It just doesn't have the taste and flavor of the real thing. Getting caught up in the audience response is a big part of the whole experience. And if you've never walked that curtain or come down that aisle like I have hundreds, perhaps thousands of times, how could you possibly know the feeling? And that's why you come here, and this is what I relate to you guys and gals on this channel. Because of the unique opportunity you have to look at an insider's view who was a performer, a talent, along with being, that's right, a fan, a fucking mark. I admit it. In all my flaws and all my splendor, cantankerous or not, reality, that's what you get here. Not all the assailants used knives. Weapons of choice range from whiskey bottles to lighted cigarettes, paper clips shot from rubber bands to fingernails, hat pins, and bare fists. I remember being kicked in the head ringside by a lady when I was managing the Outcast Killers, Oman Tortuga and Diablo Santiago against the Now in a tag team match. She booted me right in the head. Yeah. Or the night that I cut a promo in front of a lot of fans, probably close to 2,000 fans that night, prior to my managing, I believe it was Ron Zombie that night against ECW original Hardcore Tommy Dreamer, where I cut a 5 to 7 minute promo. They were throwing bottles of soap, water, bars of soap, everything you could think of from pillar to post at the GOC. And I just went on and continued with my promo like I was supposed to. They littered the ring. It was a sight to behold. It's here on the channel. Navigate it. And wrestlers weren't always content to stay on the receiving end of their mistreatment. And remember with Bill Watts in the Mid-South or over in Polynesian Pacific Championship Wrestling in certain areas, certain promoters, from Ole Anderson, as I said, to Bill Watts, to Peter Maivia. If a talent got his ass kicked or got his ass handed to him by one of the fans, you were let go. You had to be tougher than the fans in real life. If you got your ass kicked in a barroom brawl, you can count yourself as persona non grata. You got to live the gimmick. You got to be the man. And I'm not quoting Ric Flair either. As you guys know, I just did an unbelievable episode on Ric Flair on Storytime with the GOC. Remember that and how tough the promoters were. Even in Florida Championship Wrestling with Eddie Graham, with Gorilla Monsoon as well. You had to live the part, and you had to actually be a fucking tough guy and to be able to defend yourself. Or what are you doing in this business? That's just the way it is. Same thing in the Texas territories as well. Do your history. Do your due diligence. Do your research, as I always say, before you make a comment on this channel. I'm not always right, but I'm very rarely wrong. Sports writer Joe Jarrett's father, who wrestled under the name the Mormon Mauler, was hit by a lighted book of matches thrown by an angry female fan as he made his way to the dressing room. He wouldn't hit a lady, but that didn't stop him from making a few pithy observations about her ancestry. Suddenly, a belligerent man stepped between them, shouting, "That's my wife." The Mauler slugged him, offering the advice, "Teach her better manners then." Learn to control your partner, one way or the other, right, wrong, or indifference. Refer to my saying about respect. I don't know what possessed the fans, especially the ladies, to join in the fray so viciously. It could have been the times that bred them. This was, after all, the era of the McCarthy Red Scare and backyard bomb shelters. Emotions tended to run a little high back then, as they are right now in 2024. That's another story for another time on another show. Or maybe it was just because the small arenas of the day were so crammed with howling fans that the hysteria of the moment took over. I do know that some of the small towns I wrestled in had arenas so bad they had to have major improvements just to qualify as slums. But then again, some of those old arenas were great, like Madison Square Garden, the old Boston Garden, Washington's Uline Arena, the Mosque in Richmond, Virginia, and Sunnyside Gardens in New York. So I guess you can't blame fan frenzies on the arenas themselves. After all, there's the guy who got so upset watching a television bout, which was his idol Vern Gagne, got the bejabbers beaten out of him. This fan got so involved that he took out his .38 caliber pistol and shot out the screen. Like many fans, he was just caught up in the whole wrestling mystique. A true believer, kayfabe was alive and well. Tickets for wrestling shows usually sell out faster than those for rock concerts. Gene Okerlund recalls a recent show in Minneapolis where the 18,000 tickets sold out in less than 90 minutes. Now remember the time frame. As we flash back, no pun intended, here in the time machine we go forward and go back. This is over 25 years ago. Still applies to today's industry and days. I want to give you a taste of history. That's what you get here as we're 30 minutes in. By the 1980s and 1990s, wrestling in particular and society in general had changed again. A more in-your-face attitude came into vogue. Youth became the obsession of consumers and advertisers. And the worlds of entertainment and sports began to cater to what can be best described as the MTV world of instant gratification, hence Rock and Roll Connection, the war to settle the score, the brawl to settle it all, the whole MTV thing in the middle 80s. What a time to be alive. By the wrestling, let me get back to my thought here. You know, my mind's like a lazy Susan. It'll come back around. Wrestling addressed this change in audience expectations by coming up with more confrontational themes, more complex character development, and enough salaciousness to intrigue any dozen special prosecutors. With these changes, wrestling actively encouraged audience identification with the characters, storylines, and of course, any tie-in merchandise they could come up with. It all began at WrestleMania won, I guess we'll call it, at Madison Square Garden on March 31st, 1985. 23,000 wrestling-crazed fans identified with Hulk Hogan and Mr. T as together they took on Rowdy Roddy Piper and Paul Orndorff. The Hulk played the crowd like a maestro. In wrestling terminology, he was building heat. The crowd connected with his every move and inflection. They roared when he pumped his biceps, and when he shouted, they shouted their amens. That was the defining moment of the new world, the golden era, as I like to call it, or at least the second golden era, of audience involvement in wrestling. Like the cult movie phenomenon of the time, the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which I was never a fan of, wrestling invited its audiences to share in the experience unfolding before them. And they responded by throwing themselves into the moment, voice first, with all the enthusiasm they had. Add to this the greening of the audiences, as the crowds attending the events were made up of younger and younger fans. And you could see that in the videos from the 70s into the 80s. Now the wrestlers weren't seen as sports legends anymore, which was a big mistake in my opinion, when we go from pro wrestling into sports entertainment. I'm just saying, I like the entertainment part of it, the vignettes. There's always room for comedy. I get it. You got to evolve. I understand. They were more like real-life action figures, and all old questions of real or fake no longer mattered. Hence, that's when we lost kayfabe. The performance was everything, with Star Wars laser shows, smoke machines, and theme music making the wrestlers' entrances. You got an overall event the new young audiences could not only identify with, but could really get into. Vocal participation is one thing, but this is the video generation. Hello, especially in 2024, people can't get away from it, including myself. I'm a part of it. But this is the video generation, as I said, and for lots of younger fans, and even an event isn't real unless it's on TV, including their own attendance at an event. So fan-made signs at sporting events have become a major means of participation, which have included into today, 25 years later, people not even living in the moment while they're at the event, because everybody's on their fucking cell phones, their iPhones. Am I right? It's the truth, man. I'm speaking truth here. Wrestling today is a huge audience draw. It's so big that it can command the largest arena in every city. Usually the facilities that normally house the local hockey and or basketball teams, only a few cities, Dallas, Philadelphia, Memphis, have arenas that specialize in wrestling alone. These are the cities that have a long, long history of regular wrestling events. Now, signs have always been a problem area at sporting events. They were long banned from arenas and stadiums because they blocked other fans' views of the action. But then, the New York Mets franchise, which I am a diehard of over 50 years, you guys know, if you know me personally and know this channel and subscribe and tune in here, that my two loves are the world of pro wrestling and baseball. The New York Mets franchise changed all that. Fans began toting in signs at Shea Stadium, where I spent my youth, watching the likes of Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, Roberto Clemente, Tom Seaver, Nolan Ryan. The list goes on and on. Darryl Strawberry, Doc Gooden, Ron Darling, Keith Hernandez, the 86 Mets, Mike Piazza, so on and so forth. Does it get any better than that? David Wright, Pete Alonso? I'm just saying, man. Even bed sheets proclaiming their loyalty to their amazing team, the amazing Mets. You gotta believe in the Kings of Queens. Across town, the New York Yankees still continued their policy of confiscating signs whenever fans brought them into the stadium, until the Mets' attendance figures began to surpass their own. Signs suddenly came into their own, first in baseball, then everywhere in sports. Let that sink in. Dwell on it. Ponder it, if you will. Wrestling was slow to pick up on this shift. The major federations continued to ban them from the arenas, partly because of the old concern that they'd block the view, but partly because of the fears that the opinions expressed would be objectionable on TV, and TV was the heart and soul of the new wrestling. Hence, they're oppressing you, they're taking away your amended rights, freedom of speech, even way back then, and look at where we are now. It took ECW to change all that. Extreme Championship Wrestling, staging its matches at a former bingo hall in South Philadelphia, was an upstart challenger to the two major federations, the WWF and the WCW, formerly JCP and NWA. And of course, the AWA, World Class Championship Wrestling from Florida, Georgia, Mid-Atlantic, the UWF, Mid-South, a Calgary Stampede, so on and so forth. You guys get the picture, right? It was looking for ways to set itself apart from its major league competitors, so it wrote into its storyline a fellow named Sign Guy. I know Sign Guy. He's a good guy. This character always sat in the same spot around the third row, so he was easily caught by the TV cameras. And he had a sign for every occasion, each one wackier than the one that went before. Let that sink in. Back in the Monday night ratings battles between the WWF and WCW, the Monday Night Wars, this phenomenon was duly noted. Signs started popping up everywhere on both Raw is War and Nitro. At first they seemed planted by the federations themselves, and they probably were. But that changed quickly as fans started bringing their own. Now they're everywhere. The signs originally planted by the federations were all pretty tame, and maybe you could call them a little uninspired. They praised the good guys, they insulted the bad guys. Audience signs can be much more creative. Kevin Nash recalls a particularly effective sign, if that's what you'd call it. The article in question was a huge set of fingers, obviously lovingly crafted by their proud owner, who wrapped them around the Nitro girls from his seat of safety back in the audience. It was a unique take on the more ubiquitous sponge hands, a favorite digit extended to the skies that lots of other fans have settled for. No offense. The ECW has tried to introduce other elements of audience participation that have had less success crossing over to the more mainstream federations. Working off their extreme image, they've attempted to further fan interaction with the wrestlers by encouraging the audience to bring in weapons, what a mistake, to pass along to the wrestler of choice to help him in his struggles when he tumbles out of the ring, and everything from frying pans to rolling pins. Yeah. All innovations aside, the main way audiences get into the act is the good old-fashioned way. Vocally, they cheer, they boo, they shout words your mama wouldn't approve of, and at Eric Bischoff, the bad boss of WCW, when he enters the ring, as we're in the middle right now on the Vice series, Who Killed WCW? Am I right? How apropos, even from 25 years ago. That's why you're here. Perhaps the best example of cheer-inspiring wrestling hero is Bill Goldberg. When Goldberg enters the ring, his fans react with the intensity that Frank Sinatra kicked off 2 generations ago, except Goldberg's fans don't swoon. They shout. They're in their full regalia wearing Goldberg t-shirts, some even with shaven heads in imitation of their idol. When he makes his entrance, they're on their feet and the chant begins, as we know, and a lot of people want to say now, Oldberg. Oh, I get it. Goldberg. I had a chance to work on a couple of events with Dwayne Gill. Gilberg. What a parody that was, huh? Am I right? Priceless. He is the ultimate in fan connection, or at least he was back in that day. Goldberg himself, trying to explain the phenomenon, came up with this, to quote Goldberg, "People love to see violence. It's just our way of throwing Christians to the lions." In 2024, how interesting is that saying? Comedian Steve Allen, a one-time wrestling announcer, had a different take on the situation, and he says, "Be comfortable in the knowledge that we prefer our mayhem to be make-believe. Whatever the case is, today's fans enjoy wrestling for what it is, entertainment of the highest order, and now they're a full-fledged part of it. For a while, an enterprising fan set up a small stand outside the ECW arena for which he sold potential weapons for fans to give their favorite wrestlers, much like the stands selling ladies' underwear that are set up outside of Vegas casinos when Tom Jones is headlining. Tom Jones. It's not unusual to be loved by anyone. It's not unusual to be held by anyone. No? Too soon? Too long? Too much? Fans often request seats near the entrance and exit aisle, hoping that they'll get a high five from their favorite heroes. Most of the time, security arrangements are such that they have little to set for just a little eye contact. But that's how tight it was in the arenas back in the day. Pro wrestling arenas come in all sizes, shapes, and qualities. Sometimes the facilities are bare bones, basic. Other arenas are as luxurious as wrestling's idea of the Taj Mahal. And while the wrestling industry makes a major effort to get their shows out to the fans, no matter where they live, you can bet that the big shows will go where there are facilities that can handle all the hoopla. Still, big stars will still perform in small venues. After all, the fans, wherever they happen to live, are what made the pro wrestling business the multi-million-dollar industry it is today, more like a multi-billion-dollar industry that it is today. And you see that the bitch is on, right? I got heat with her. Should I talk to her right now? Should I talk to this AI-generated bitch? I got heat with her. No offense. Alexa, play tropical thunderstorm sounds. She must know. I think she's finally caught on. Maybe I'll back off her a little bit. You know I got an ongoing war with her, right? How's that for 2024 setting into the future, what we know now about AI? Hello? I'll say it again. McFly, is anybody paying attention to what's really going on? I'm here for a distraction. I get it. Keep your eye on the prize, though. Oh, well, where was I? The fans, because without you, none of this is possible. Let's remember that. Always remember that. The true hardcore fans know in their bones that there's nothing on TV that can come close to seeing a live match, and they'll make every effort to catch the action. That's right, the action in the arenas whenever they can. Extreme fans are like the deadheads. They'll travel with the wrestling circuit and visit arenas all over the country. But most people can't just drop their jobs or school to follow their favorite wrestlers around like groupies. Although back in the day, they kind of did, especially in the 80s. So they have to settle for second best, which is pay-per-view events on television, or what they call now streaming services, PLEs. That's the way of the world. True enough, no live event can beat pay-per-view for convenience. You get a guaranteed great view, the best seat in the house, no parking or traffic problems, and you can tape it so you can see it whenever you want, as often as you want. But television, no matter how good the camera work, sound, and editing, can never really capture the atmosphere of a live match. I agree with that. That's just the thrill that comes with watching the event at ringside that pay-per-views can't duplicate. And then there's the rush that comes from being part of the crowd. No pay-per-view or PLE broadcast, I'm putting that in there myself, has ever found a way to duplicate that. Thousands of screaming, booing, cheering fans all around, bright lights and the smell of the ring. Nope, you won't get that on pay-per-view. Our favorite arenas, great arenas that make a difference. Any hardcore wrestling fan will tell you that every live match is a good match, but there's good and there's great, to quote Tony the Tiger. And the difference has a lot to do with the arena, and the arena that you see it in. If you're stuck sitting for 3 hours on a metal folding chair, you just aren't going to have as much enjoyment as if the match were held in a fancy stadium with a cushioned theater seat. and having to crane your neck to look around the Panama hat of the guy in front of you who cuts down your visibility. It's much better to go to a stadium with raised seating platforms. After all, you want to see the ring, not the back of some fan's big giant dome piece, or as I say, a dumpster head. Then there's the size factor. Everybody talks about size, especially you women. No offense, man, my family's watching. I get it, man. Be happy with what you're born with. Bigger is better? I don't know. They used to call me Big Daddy. I'm just saying. What I say, man, don't be offended. Lighten up, it's a joke. Most of the time, big arenas are the best. They're usually got some more to offer the fans, and they're usually profitable enough to invest in some creature comforts for you, the fans. But smaller venues have one major plus. They offer fans the chance to come into close contact with their favorite stars, much like the independent circuit, which is the backbone of this business. I say it all the time, support independent pro wrestling. That's where you get the real feel of what the world of pro wrestling is really all about. On the ground level, at excellent prices, very entertaining, family fun. It doesn't get better than the independent business. And that's where everybody starts to make it to the big arenas, to the show, so to speak, to use a baseball term. Casino-style matches held in gambling meccas like Las Vegas give you a party atmosphere, maybe the most comfortable way to go. At the bigger arenas can put on light shows like you see on pay-per-view, when the smaller ones just don't have the facilities to do so. But all this is secondary. Wrestling fans don't go to the arena to compare decorating styles. They go to see wrestling stars themselves. That's it. End of story. And that's why the independents are so important to this business and to you, the fans. If the only place to see the show is the local high school gym, that's where they'll be. Getting a little dry here, a little thirsty. I gotta stay hydrated. We're 50 minutes in. The hardcore fans who follow their stars around the wrestling circuit will sooner or later develop a list of favorite venues. So will the wrestlers themselves and the managers. Hello? But the reasons that the fans like an arena will have little in common with the reasons the wrestlers come up with. Wrestlers know the arena they're booked into can have a real effect on the strategy of their match. The size of the ring affects the style of the match. A small ring favors the classic brawler who specializes in up-close work. For example, while the larger ring is great for the more athletic wrestlers who leap from the ring ropes. Not to mention the location effect. Ric Flair loves booking into North Carolina. He's the hometown favorite there. Makes sense. And the crowd will turn out in droves to cheer him on. Stand by. Don't go anywhere. We're going over an hour. It's Sunday night, man. By the time this gets up, this will be in prime time for you guys to sit back and enjoy some entertainment. Talk about ratings. Right now, I have to compete with Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN with the New York Mets and the Real Housewives of New Jersey. That's who I'm competing with right now. So let's hope I get a decent rating out of this. Let me focus, Chaos, focus. After some serious head scratching, we've come up with a list of our favorite arenas, past and present. The list is not inclusive of all good wrestling venues, like the Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling Training Facility. Kind of like a TV studio, kind of like the old WTBS studios in Atlanta for NWA, WCW, Jim Crockett Promotions. That's the kind of venue we have at Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling as far as a local independence here in the greater New England tri-state Northeast area in the shadows of Titan Towers. How about that? But this list is a start. They're all sure bets for giving a good live match experience for the fans, as well as offering up what wrestlers and managers would agree to be key facilities to stage a great battle. And here are some of the favorites. And right now, as we're live here at 54 minutes in the chat room, in the community page, On the replay, drop in your favorite arena that you've seen on TV or that you've been to live. Give me your favorite venues. It means a lot to me. It really does. And I'll give you my feedback. The Boston Garden. Madison Square Garden. It's hard to beat Madison Square Garden as a premier place to view an event. The facility is located at 4 Pennsylvania Plaza at the corner of 34th Street and 7th Avenue over Pennsylvania Penn Station. It seats 19,763 people and was opened in 1968. If you wish to call the stadium, the phone number is, I believe it's still accurate, and maybe I'll give it out, 212-465-6741. If you can write that fast. Now don't forget, they annually sold out over 20,000, plus the extension of the 4,000 upstairs at the Felt Forum. Let that marinate. And of course, the old Boston Gardens. Let's continue. The Uline Arena in Washington, D.C. Market Square Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The La Mosque in Richmond, Virginia. The Pittsburgh Civic Center in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, obviously. Sunnyside Gardens in San Francisco, California. The Marigold Arena in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. St. Nick's Parkway Arena in San Francisco, California. Obviously, the Olympic Auditorium in Los Angeles. The Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis, Tennessee, which is located at 996 Early Maxwell Street in Memphis, Tennessee. This facility can accommodate 11,667 patrons and sold out weekly. Weekly! And the phone number there is, and if I can write this down, let's see how quick you are, 901-274-3982. Now remember, some of these arenas have been long gone, long well established and replaced into cookie cutters or not even there anymore. Like the Sportatorium in Dallas and the Bayfront Center and the Herbert Hershey Armory in Florida. I believe that's what it was called, if I got it correct. The old New Haven Coliseum. I mean, the list goes on and on with renovations and different things. It really was. The Armory in Florida, I got the name wrong. The ECW Arena, the 2300 Arena, which is still there in Philadelphia. The Reunion Arena, as I just talked about, the Sportatorium in Dallas. If you happen to be in the Dallas area, check out the Reunion Arena. It opened in 1980 at the cost of $27 million and is situated on 6.2 acres of land. There is parking for 6,500 vehicles at this stadium and some of the finest safety features available. Beyond this list, there are lots of other places, large and small, that book wrestling, that's for sure. And pro wrestling is such a phenomenon now that new venues are opening up every day. Remember the time frame, we go back 25 years here on Chaos Corner. Pro wrestling comes to cities across the country, so chances are you'll get to see your favorite wrestlers at an arena near you. How do you find out where the wrestlers are? Most matches are publicized, especially in today's social media, well in advance. If you watch wrestling on TV, you'll see the promotional spots, which they don't do anymore, for upcoming matches. Fans who have access to the internet, hello, everyone does nowadays, can check out the websites for information on live matches in their arena. There's nothing like publicity. There's nothing like marketing and sponsoring. There's just nothing like it. And if you don't do that, you have your head up your ass. It's all about promotion. Let's see what else that I have here on this edition of Chaos Corner about fans and arenas. I don't want to keep you guys too long. We're coming up on almost an hour. This is the least that you need to know. And then we'll wrap it up here on Chaos Corner. Again, much love and respect for being here. I can't thank you enough. I've had a lot of fun here today. Let's have a safe week coming up with this heat wave and all these storms. We're in the summer, deep into the, beginning of the summer, actually, in 2024. 4th of July is right around the corner. So stay safe, family and friends. Pay-per-view showings don't deliver the same spice as a live house match does. live house matches. There's nothing like the live experience, whether it be the big time or independent pro wrestling. I can't stress that enough. The risk of personal injury at live events is almost non-existent in today's age, although you have to be safe. Safety is number one, and I say it all the time. Madison Square Garden and the Reunion Arena are top-notch facilities to see a match in, and I believe this Monday night, from Monday Night Raw on the WWE, I believe tomorrow night they will be at the Garden. Call ahead to see what you are and aren't allowed to bring to a live match. Remember the time frame here, and seriously consider leaving very small children with a sitter when you go to a live match. Now the times have changed. They've made it all about the kids, especially in WWE. Because remember, this is from 25 years ago, but most of it still applies today. A complete idiot's guide to the world of pro wrestling. Captain Lou Albano and Burt Randolph Sugar. A match made in heaven. All right, fans. Stand by. I'm not signing off yet. Unlike the flashback series where we abruptly go off the air, we never know what's going to happen. You never know what I'm going to say when we're live to tape. It really is an unbelievable series if you're missing out on flashback here. And I'm coming back with this date today in pro wrestling history as well. Story time is always ongoing. My coverage of the live events from WWE and AEW are always here on the channel, as well as all my other social media platforms. Well, hold on, man. Could I wet the whistle? I just want to wet my whistle. No? Too late in the show? Stay hydrated. I'll say that to say this. Because I tell it like it is. Don't you dare miss it.